Today we're talking finding your niche in photography.
Find your niche. Is that like Where's Waldo?
There's only one thing that we love more than eating food with chopsticks, and that's photography.
I'm Mark.
I'm Steve, and we're the Chopstick Guys.
Now, I don't understand. So I have 3 nieces, and if I just concentrate on photographing them, which I've done their senior portraits and their weddings and babies.
Hold on. I didn't say niece photography. We're talking niche, like maybe
okay.
You know,
I know what you're talking about. Niche photography.
Yeah.
So you told me we were going to talk about this the other day. So I don't know about you. I watched a ton of videos on people talking.
All the time.
Yep. For like 2 days straight of just nothing about niche photography. You know what I found out?
No, tell me, Mark. What did you find out?
Is that everybody says the same thing. It was a wasted 2 days of my life because all they did was say you should specialize in something
So actually,
if you
you're
want
wasting
your
like
business
7
to
days
grow.
of your life because you're constantly watching.
Exactly, because I just watch videos. I have no life. So, but anyways, here's what I came up with is the fact that they talk about what are all the categories that you hear. You hear
Like pet photography.
Pets. Yep. You hear real estate. You hear wedding. You hear. My thought is, all of those things fall under an umbrella of like portrait photography. I think a lot of your things like real estate can fall under landscape or structure, but I'm not so sure yet that I'm convinced that there is such thing as a niche photography.
Well, I mean, that's how some people make their living, right? It's just I'm just going to be that real estate guy. I mean, do you think that's even possible in today's photography world?
No, I think it's an exception, not the rule. That's the problem is I think too much in photography we deal with the exceptions. Oh no, if you specialize and become a pet photographer, you're going to be the one that dominates your market. I don't know a lot of people that call themselves pet photographers.
Yeah. I think my concern with that is just, what if I am the pet guy, right? And all of a sudden, pet photography goes out of favor.
Yeah.
Now my whole business is just done.
Exactly. So this is a good case in point. You just came back from Imaging USA a couple weeks ago.
Back in San Antonio, Texas.
And you were able to meet with a photographer who is a portrait photographer, but has also found a niche, right?
Right.
So tell us what you found.
So I was back in Imaging USA, back in San Antonio, Texas, about a week and a half ago. Had a great time meeting people. But one of the people that I met was a photographer named Brittany Butler. Now, she's got a really interesting niche, as well as being an incredible portrait photographer. She is an underwater photographer. Now, I got a chance to catch up with her out at a shoot at a swimming pool. And let's go ahead and we'll take a look at that. Let's go on a photo walk, actually, and we'll take a look at that. Well, hey there, everybody. We are here in Schertz, Texas today. Now, it is a pretty chilly day here for Texas, but we're at a brand new aquatic center. In fact, the grand opening is coming up in just a few days. Now, we are fortunate enough to get early access to this pool, and we're going to be sharing with you a story about Brittany Butler. And Brittany Butler is a renowned photographer in this area, and she does an extremely unique type of photography that I think you're going to be interested in. Let's take a walk inside, and let's go see what she's doing. Hey Brittany, come on over. So everybody, this is Brittany Butler. Like I said, she's a renowned photographer in this area here in Schertz, Texas. And Brittany does something that's very, very unique. Now, she's not just a photographer extraordinaire, but she is an underwater swimming pool photographer. And what I mean by that is she does underwater portraits. So right now she's preparing for a senior portrait session that's actually going to be featured on Schertz magazine. It's their community magazine, but she's got the cover spot for that. So it's pretty exciting. She's excited. We've got a whole slew of seniors that she's going to be shooting in the pool here in a few minutes. And she's going to be putting on her wetsuit, ready to go. But Brittany, how did you get started in doing underwater photography?
Actually, it was a combination of all different things, but the biggest thing was I actually attended an Imaging USA class, a workshop, and it was all about seniors and marketing, and I tried to figure out how I can do that in my own community. How can I make it unique and personal? And really, what I came up with was a pool setting. Our community at the time was looking to build a new pool, and I said, well, how can I incorporate that into my senior work? And the community in the area and myself, we came up with a project, and we kind of just started with underwater photography. And that's it, and I've been doing it ever since. It's been about 3 years now, and I love it.
So that's awesome. And in fact, the name of her photography business is Vintage Creek. So being Vintage Creek fits well with the underwater photography. But what do you find are the biggest challenges in shooting underwater?
The biggest challenge actually is working with the models underwater. For me, I'm used to it now. It's a big struggle when you're not used to opening your eyes and smiling. And getting someone to look really natural. It's very uncomfortable, and it shows up really easy on camera, actually. So I usually spend a good 45 minutes to an hour just practicing with a model. We do a lot of meetings before we even get in the pool on what to expect, how I can prepare them for what they're about to experience, and then a lot of communication while we're in the pool. We only shoot about 15 seconds at a time, and each time we come up for air, I give them a little bit more tips on how to relax, how to feel more comfortable. Do they need anything? Is the chlorine hurting their eyes too much? And we kind of just work from there.
So now you use a lot of different types of props under the water. What kind of props do you use?
We've done everything from musical instruments to, today we'll be using balloons. Everything I find, I get at thrift stores, garage sales, discount stores, just because I'm expecting it to be ruined when I put it in the pool. So most of the items that you'll see in my images actually are broken or already discarded items, but they work perfect for this setting. So it's a great opportunity to pick up really cheap items at a discount, just because I know that they're broken, I'm not going to use them, but they look awesome in the pool.
Now, do the people that you're taking pictures of, do they have to be incredible swimmers, or can anybody?
Anybody can do it as long as you're comfortable opening your eyes, and that's the biggest part. And so I always have my models practice at home in the bathtub, out in their home pool swimming.
So they're dunking their head into the water.
They're dunking their head in the water, opening their eyes, smiling. And one of the most uncomfortable things is your tendency is to actually inhale as you go underwater, but I actually...
That would be mine if you just swallow.
Yes, you want to catch as much air before you submerge, and actually for underwater photography, it's a big no-no. I need you to actually exhale before you submerge. Your air is going to trap a lot of lungs. It's actually going to make you buoyant. So that's another thing I tell people to practice is when you're playing, when you're sticking your face in water, I need you to exhale as much air as you can and then submerge. So usually when we're photographing though, we're in the deep end of the pool and we're only about 15 seconds, 20 seconds at a time. So it's really manageable. We have lifeguards on deck at all times. I have pool noodles floating around. So we try to make it as safe as possible, but lots of practice before we get in.
Right. Hey, do me a favor. Go run and just grab your camera real quick.
Okay.
Am I doing that? I want to see the housing. All right. So check out this contraption here.
This is my baby.
Like, are you nervous when you put this in the water? I mean, this is your baby. Your camera is actually inside this housing. But it's completely waterproof.
It's completely waterproof, and this is my normal everyday camera. This isn't just a camera that I'm using for this. It's actually the camera that I would use for any land shoot that I do.
Check this thing out.
Feel how heavy that is.
Man. So it's kind of weightless in the water, right? So
it's a little heavy, but it is much more manageable in the water.
It weighs like 10 pounds.
It's very heavy, yeah.
So all of these buttons and contraptions on here, you can control basically anything on the camera, right?
I can control any function on the camera, and that's why I specifically picked this camera housing. This is an Icolite housing for a Canon 7D, and then we have a 10 to 22 lens on it as well. But it's all custom set up. So the housing, the camera, the lens case, everything is custom tailored to this, and you can go on the Icolite website and you can find any of these setups for whatever camera that you have.
So you can focus through this? I mean, you can actually look through
I can focus, I can adjust my focus, I can change my ISO, my shutter speed, any of those functions are available to me. And that's why I chose this one as opposed to any other underwater housing system. They have bags and a variation of all in between, but this one gives you the most range to actually access your camera in the water, where a lot of other systems you have to take it out, dry it off, adjust the setting, put it back in.
So probably shooting underwater is quite a bit different than shooting on land. I mean, you've got your settings are different. It's probably darker when you're looking inside the pool.
Yes.
It's the water cuts that light a lot.
So you lose about a third of the light just by like going 3 feet under, and then you lose about most of your reds when you're about 5 feet under. So you'll lose all the reds. So editing is a big deal, color correction. But the biggest thing is just understanding your camera before you get in. You have to be a really confident photographer before you even attempt to take this underwater.
So
Because
probably a lot of trial and error then, right?
so much trial and error.
And then even in your post-processing, that's a whole different way of post-processing, right? I mean,
It is
it's like
so different.
you can do your stuff where you got that color, but you're talking about taking out the reds. Like you have to try to
I
learn how
have
to replace
I
that.
have to replace a lot of that, and a lot of times you're really just playing trial and error. There's not a lot of information available for this type, specifically photographing people underwater. So a lot of it is just figuring it out, backspacing, let's try
Yeah.
again.
So before I let you get back to your people here, tell me if you had a suggestion. If someone says, "Man, I would love to get into underwater photography or swimming pool photography," what would be your biggest suggestion? I mean, what would help somebody that says, "I just want to get started in that"?
My absolute biggest suggestion, and I tell everyone, is rent a camera housing first and try it. You will be amazed at how it looks amazing. They're these beautiful images and they're so striking, but the amount of effort, you are physically exhausted by swimming. We are treading waters for hours at a time.
Yeah.
And I tell people, rent a housing, test it out,
Great tip.
and you will know. You will know instantly at the end of the day whether all that. And honestly, I will shoot thousands of images and I'll get 3 or 4, and that's realistic for when you're doing underwater.
Well, very cool. Thanks so much for taking some time
Thank
with us,
you,
Brittany.
Steve.
We're really excited. We're going to actually spend a little bit of time here. We're going to see her getting ready some more and for prepping the models and maybe even jumping in the pool. So appreciate you being here.
Thank
You
you.
can get back to your people, and we'll make it a great day. Thanks so much for sharing this time with us. We look forward to sharing some more stories.
So that was great. So what I want to know is, what was your takeaway from your time spent with Brittany?
I can tell you my biggest takeaway is I do not want to become an underwater photographer. That's way, way too much work. And plus, I can't hold my breath that long.
I've tried to do it with one of those bags that you buy, those inexpensive bags.
Right.
It worked for about 4 times, and then water leaked into my camera, and it almost
That's because you were
destroyed.
using a Safeway grocery bag.
Well, Ziploc, yeah. So, but anyways, tell me, other than that, what's something that other than...
So here's what I really learned is that, for niche photography, Brittany has got that niche of being an underwater photographer. But really, what that has helped is it's expanded her business like she could have never imagined. So it expanded her senior portrait business, her corporate portrait business, all really exploded due to the fact that she's been featured in magazines, publications, web articles because of her skill in doing underwater photography.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying before. I don't know that there's really such thing as a niche, but there is. You can specialize within your field.
Yeah,
and that's what she's done, and it's helped her business by specializing in one area along with the other stuff.
See, and I just like that better, to say I specialize in, and that leaves it wide open to do the other types of photography.
Because once I say I'm a pet photographer, I'm
you
a
are
pet
a pet
photographer.
photographer.
Exactly.
You're going to be,
Yeah,
take
I've had
pictures
people
of
come to me and go, well, I was going to ask you to do my wedding, but I didn't think that you did weddings because you're a whatever kind of photographer.
Yep.
So, hey, do you know what time it is?
What time is it?
It is time for you to get the bill. No, it is time for
Fortunate Questions. All right, Fortunate Questions. It's our time that we have questions coming in from you, the viewer. And let's see what today's question is. It's from Mike in Nevada. It says, should I get a new camera? Well, I don't know, Mike.
Hey,
sure, why not?
Get a new
I don't know.
camera.
But actually, I get that question a lot. It's
Yeah.
like, should I get a new camera? Should I upgrade? Should I get mirrorless? Should I go DSLR?
Yeah.
Should I just get a point and shoot? Should I give up photography altogether? Which in a lot of cases I say, yeah, you know what? You really should.
It's funny. The other day, my wife texted me from work, and it just said one of her coworkers wants to buy a camera for her daughter, and said, "Hey, what camera should she buy?" And it was like, what do you mean? What kind of camera should she buy? What does your daughter like to do? Is she actually a photographer? Does she just like photography? That's going to make the biggest decision.
Totally.
Let me ask you a question. If you had no lenses, no cameras, knowing what you know today, would there be a camera system that you would switch to? Versus your Nikon shooter.
I am. I'm a Nikon shooter. Shoot with a D810, a D750, a D700. Shot with a D4 previously. But you know what I love is my Fuji XT series. So I have an XT1.
Yeah.
They now have an XT2. But man, just for the files that come out of this little, I call it Junior because all my cameras are, they're bigger, right? And Junior, which I don't have here today, is just
Feels
small.
good in the hand.
I can take
Right.
it anywhere. You know,
I
Mark
have an
and
A7
Yeah.
and same thing.
When we travel together, we just got back from India. You know, I shot a lot of my pictures in India with this this little camera.
And I felt robbed because I left the A7 a lot of times back in the flat, so I would shoot a lot with a Nikon 610. Where Steve, you'd be able to flip your screen up on the back and take shots kind of down at the waist when we were in public. Where I kind of had to hit and miss a lot of times to see, you know, what I'm going to get. So there's an advantage with that screen.
But you know, to answer Mike's question, I think the way that I've answered it before is like, if your camera is 5 years old and it's gotten good use, I mean, a 5-year-old camera is still going to take great pictures. I have a D700, in fact, it's sitting right next to Mark there. That thing still is stellar, right? It's only 12 megapixels, but it takes a great picture.
It does.
But the thing is, if you've got a camera that's 5 years old, there's been such advancements in the last 5 years, and if you can afford it, get a new camera.
Exactly.
If you can't afford it, don't get a new camera, because you can still take great images with that.
Exactly. We overthink what we're going to get out of our cameras.
And then
we're not printing things this big. Generally, it's going to be small. It's going to go to wedding album. It's going to be portraits.
And you know, it really comes down to two things: are you getting a DSLR, or are you getting a mirrorless?
Yep.
Both are great options. I think the mirrorless has just taken such leaps and bounds, and the ability to carry it around is so lightweight. I would definitely take a look in the mirrorless, Mike.
Exactly. And, you know, if you're not that serious about it, hey, just wait, because the next generation of telephones that are coming out are going to shoot as good as our DSLRs. I was just looking the other day that there's a new phone out that Leica has the camera built in, where it's two lenses, it's a twin lens, it does all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, to Mike's point is, you know, that's really up to you, Mike, whether you want to get a new camera. But yeah.
So hey, I want you guys to send us your questions, right? They'll be stuffed into a fortune cookie. We'll be able to open it up and break open those questions for you. But we're looking forward to hearing from you with your fortunate questions each week.
All right. You know what time it is now? It's time to talk raw.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Check it out. Yeah.
This is the real raw talk.
This is the real raw talk. So every week we're going to be coming to you during our raw talk segment with two objectives. One is to show you some of the best sushi around, and we've got some of that today, and also sharing you some of the raw images that you can post-process. So Raw Talk is all about post-processing your images, giving you some tips and tricks on how you can make your images better.
So good. So today I have a tip for you.
All right.
You know, those of you that know me, I hung around a print shop for quite a long time, and have worked with one of the Photoshop gurus. And this tip today is something that I learned from my friend Dan, that really gets down to printing images. A lot of people don't think about
big bite, sorry.
It was. So nowadays, a lot of people are just thinking social media, so they're not thinking printing. But oh my goodness, when you hold that print in your hand, there's just something amazing that happens. So what I want to do is I'm going to bring up an image first.
All right.
And this is an image that we shot the other day. You and I, we went up to a waterfall up in Northern California and hiked in and saw it and got a couple really cool shots there. And there's something there that
so you brought this to Photoshop, or are we bringing that in? Or?
Now I'm going to bring this into Photoshop.
Okay.
So let's just keep what I've got the defaults here in Camera Raw, and we're just going to bring it right up here into Photoshop. So we've got it looking in Photoshop, and you know, we did a couple little tweaks inside of Camera Raw, and we feel like, okay, this looks very much like the scene that we had seen. What's going to happen, though, is when we deal with JPEG images or any type of digital images when it comes to print, they're what's called RGB, red, green, and blue, make up all of these colors. So it tends to, blue seems to tend to favor the darkest spots. So you get this blue cast. And if you're not looking for it, you don't see it. This particular image here, years ago, I used to bring stuff into Dan all the time, and he'd look and go, you mind if I fix your photo? And I'd always be afraid for him to do something, because I thought, I've already gotten it how I like it.
Dan is your print guy.
He's the print guy. He owned the print shop, and he is the Photoshop master. And he would look at it and go, you got a lot of blue in your shadows. And I'd go, no, I don't think so. It looks pretty good. He'd go, well, let me just show you a couple things. So this is something I learned from Dan. He has a couple different ways to do it, but I'm going to show you the simplest way that I think is going to show this, and it's something you're going to love to do.
Because I thought this image looked pretty good.
It does. It looks fantastic. But again, I've trained myself now to look for, especially with landscape images, and man, even when we shoot portraits, we get landscapes in the background.
Okay, let's see the Panoptic
Let's
magic.
look at the magic here. So the magic, I'm going to go ahead, and you could do this through something like color balance. I'm just going to use hue and saturation simply because it's going to show it the best. So I'm going to bring up the dialog box for hue and saturation, and notice right here where it says master, I'm going to hit the little drop down and I can select any of these color channels.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and click on cyan first, and just to show you, I'm going to run the saturation of the cyans all the way up 100%. Now you look everywhere that water is touching, where it's coming together, we're seeing a lot of this blue.
Yeah, right.
Well, the day we shot this, it was snowing on our way in, so it was a cloudy day. In nature, you don't see a lot of blue. You'll see blue in water, in the sky, because it's reflecting off the sky, but in a lot of things, you're not going to see it. It's just a matter of, to have these deep shadows, it's using a lot of blue to make that color. So I'm going to run the blue down. I never run it down 100% and take it completely out, because what happens is those pixels, you're turning them gray. You don't want to turn them gray. You're just trying to remove that cast. But the blue channel now is where we really are going to see a lot of the problems. So if I run this up, look at 100%.
Wow.
Look at how blue, all the blue
That's
in the
amazing.
water, everywhere. And it's all those spots where you have dark shadows. So I'm going to run that down probably to about minus 65% right there. And let's go ahead and shut that on and off. So this is what we've corrected. So here's the before.
Yep.
Now if you look at that image, when you first looked at it and I told you there's a lot of blue in there, you would have said, no, I don't think there's a lot of blue. But when we turn that back on, what we had just done, all of a sudden it looks very natural. It's like, wow, that's the scene that I had seen. I always think of it as almost white balancing for the shadows.
Yeah, I mean, it looked good before, but now
It just
with
looks
that-
amazing. Now the greens pop out
Yep.
a little bit more. This was winter time, so there's not a lot of green right now, and you can still see a little bit of snow there. But again, the before, very, very blue, and the after. Let me zoom in a tiny bit here so you can see where the two waterfalls come together. And there's my before.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the after. So the beauty of this is now, when this is ready for print, that print machine is not going to put any blue ink in those areas. So you're not going to get that blue cast. And again, because it's not global, it's just happening in these darker areas.
So in 30 seconds, you took a great image
Yeah.
and kind of made it into a masterpiece. I mean,
Exactly.
That's what's pretty amazing, is just with a few short adjustments, you really took the image to the next level.
Yeah. And I'll tell you another thing that I use this method for a lot. If you do family portraits like I do a lot of, you'll find they love to wear blue jeans. And if any of you have ever printed your photos, you're going to find out people aren't wearing blue jeans. It looks like they're wearing purple jeans.
Right.
So you do this method and mask out the areas. We'll talk about masking in another lesson, but you mask out those areas other than the jeans, takes those colors. Suddenly they're wearing blue jeans again. They're not wearing magenta jeans or purple jeans. So that is the quick tip.
Awesome.
Take the blues out of the shadows if you can.
Good
if
job.
You need to. So we got a lot to eat here, so I
More
think
sushi.
it's time that we dig in. But before we do, any final thoughts?
Hey, for our final thoughts today, I think we learned some great stuff from Brittany out there in Texas, just about underwater photography and what it takes to capture your niche in photography today.
Exactly. Areas to look for that can improve on your business.
And then this tip that we just went through, golden. So I think we did a great job here today. Really appreciated you having along with us, and we can't wait to see you next week on the Panoptic Chopstick Show.
That ought to give you some food for thought.
That's right.
Cheers.
Enjoy.